So obviously with Microsoft owning Activision now, you can get Call of Duty day one basically through Game Pass and things like that. But since Activision got bought and when the deal was originally announced, the first thing a lot of people thought would happen is that the older Call of Duty titles would be making their way really soon onto Xbox Game Pass. Activision has a lot of really big popular video game franchises, and Microsoft seems to pretty much be going all in on the Game Pass subscription model service, but so far we've only seen 2 Call of Duty titles come to Game Pass, and that was Modern Warfare 3 and then of course Black Ops 6 on day one. But it looks like there have been some recent leaks and rumors that are talking about some of the older Call of Duty titles making their way to Game Pass, and some of these games might be out in the next few months or so. Game Pass is basically what I would describe as being the Netflix of the gaming industry. You pay monthly to access a library of games across Xbox platforms, including PC if you have PC Game Pass or Game Pass Ultimate, and you basically get access to multiplayer games instead of needing to use Xbox Gold like it used to be. Now, while Xbox has these sort of originals that drop day one, they often drop games from other studios onto their platform sometime after release. You also get EA Play if you're on Game Pass Ultimate or PC Game Pass. Ubisoft has a lot of games on there, so it's been really popular with a lot of Xbox users because a lot of people like that you basically don't have to buy each individual game on its own, and you just pay a certain monthly price and basically get whatever game is on there whenever you want. Of course, now that Activision is owned by Microsoft, that would basically make Call of Duty and the entire IP a sort of Netflix original equivalent for Microsoft. Still though, the older Call of Duty games aren't on Game Pass. You can buy them in the Windows or the Xbox store, sure, but they're just not on Game Pass. The report about some of the OG Call of Duties coming to Game Pass was posted first on Xbox Era, but basically they found some leaks online that suggested that the original 2009 Modern Warfare 2 might be coming to Game Pass very soon, sometime in either March or April. Back in December, a leaker in the industry, X-1S, talked about on Twitter how there's going to be a Call of Duty title coming in March, but at the same time he wasn't sure precisely which one it was going to be. He also reported that a 2010 Raven Software survival horror shooter called Singularity and Call of Duty World at War would be coming to the platform as well sometime probably in May. Now, we sort of have a timeline for Modern Warfare 2 if these leaks pan out and end up being accurate, and it seems like it'll be around March. I think that makes sense, honestly, just because it would help fill in some gaps between some future game releases on Game Pass, and it would also give some time to get World at War on the service so the games don't just drop all at once or too close to each other. Now, as for Modern Warfare 2, if the original title does join the service, it would be the first classic Call of Duty on Game Pass, but the thing is, it's not really clear whether or not it will be the actual 2009 version or if it's going to be the remastered campaign that came out a few years ago. But basically, the remastered version didn't include anything other than the campaign, and so it's not particularly clear if Xbox Game Pass will include the multiplayer or anything like that as well. There was supposed to be apparently a remastered version of the multiplayer as well, according to some leaks, but what happened was that it seemed like it got cancelled, or maybe it was actually finished and just got shelved to basically never be released. Activision obviously never gave an official confirmation about this idea, but it's pretty interesting if it existed, why it wouldn't have been released. My speculations are pretty much the same as why I think we might not be getting any remastered multiplayers or any of the multiplayers being added to Game Pass anytime soon. This is speculation on my end, but based on, analysis and things like that, I'm pretty sure that if multiplayer from older Call of Duty games are added, it will likely take away from the multiplayer figures on the newer Call of Duty titles, like whatever comes after Black Ops 6 and things like that. Sure, there's always people that linger for the older Call of Duties here and there, but for the most part, consumer-wise, a lot of people have moved on and just play the new games every year instead of go back to play the older games, even if they happen to have enjoyed those older games more. There's a lot of issues with the older multiplayer servers, like cheaters, modders, hackers, things like that. There's definitely a lot of people who just aren't willing to go back because some people just aren't fans of playing older games. That's true. Whatever the reasons are, there's a lot of people who just might not be willing to play something that hasn't been remastered or remade or updated for modern machines, essentially. Now, for a while, there were some of these groups trying to do these sorts of Call of Duty multiplayer remasters of sorts on their own, including stuff like Black Ops 2 Plutonium and the H2M mod. The H2M mod was a pretty big community project where people basically remastered the MW2 multiplayer, and that was in seriously high demand, and a ton of people, casual players and pros alike, were super excited because Modern Warfare 2 was definitely one that a lot of people started with. It's very memorable, it's just popular. The H2M mod also required that you actually buy Modern Warfare Remastered over on Steam, and you'd be able to play the mod at that point. However, Activision issued a cease and desist on the team, which basically killed the mod, and that was just one day before the mod was actually going to to launch. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of reasons why something like that was issued a cease and desist. Maybe Activision didn't want people going back to those games. Maybe Activision didn't want someone outside of Activision to do this sort of thing. Whatever it may be, H2M died before it could ever release, which is definitely unfortunate because a lot of people were super excited about it, so clearly showing that there is substantial interest in these older games. Regarding the Modern Warfare 2 remastered multiplayer, I saw a forum from a few years ago about this very topic, and I thought one of the comments was really interesting here, but this person said that they believed that the remastered multiplayer was made just before Cold War came out, and it would have basically been a sort of failsafe in case Cold War couldn't release or flopped. Cold War came out during the lockdown, so obviously there was a lot of issues going on in the game industry, and a lot of projects and games were being delayed left and right. But anyways, the commenter said that basically Cold War was fine and made it out in time, and so MW2 remastered multiplayer got shelved, and that's that. It's also possible, and this is my interpretation of the situation, that maybe they had it remastered in a way that would have fundamentally changed a lot of the original aspects of the game, like the movement system, the gunplay, and things like that, and that at the end of the day, it wouldn't have gone over well with fans. It would have created backlash, similarly to how GTA got a ton of backlash for their original trilogy remakes, and that it would have just been a flop and it would hurt their bottom line and their image in the eyes of investors. Of course, this was way back before Microsoft's acquisition, so the stuff that mattered to Activision specifically. Then maybe they found that they were doing fine with the yearly release model and it wouldn't have made a difference to release the remastered multiplayer, so they just decided not to do it. It's also possible that they just want to remake them in a different way like they have been doing. I mean, for instance, we already got a remake of Modern Warfare 2 with the reboot trilogy, and now we're getting a Black Ops 7 title likely this year, which would be a direct sequel to Black Ops 2. So instead of remastering Black Ops 2, they would just remake it essentially in a new way, but without saying that they're remaking Black Ops 2. So maybe there's a reason why they're not remaking or at least remastering these old multiplayer titles. I'm not sure what specifically the reasons are, but again, these are all just like speculations. Now, it's very possible that some people will go back and play older Call of Duty games on multiplayer, but do I think that this will destroy the current multiplayer numbers? I don't know. Just because we sort of live in this online bubble when we talk about games and we have our own opinions and things like that, but the vast majority of players who enjoy Call of Duty, you know, they just buy and play, they have fun with their friends, they don't really look for online communities around or forums, they don't post on Reddit or make YouTube videos and stuff like that. So even if there are indicators that there's a lot of controversial aspects to the modern Call of Duty games, it hasn't really hurt the sales, and Call of Duty does continue to be the best-selling game pretty much every year so far. Plus, younger players are probably not going to go back and play an older game. They may have never even played, you know, they don't have that same nostalgia or longing, and they just want new stuff. Now, I feel like it would make a lot of sense for games like the older Call of Duty titles to come to Game Pass, just because that seems like it would get a lot more people onto the platform, since there are people who maybe skipped out in a few years here and there or wanted to try some older zombies and things like that they may not have gotten to try before, and they don't want to buy them because they still sell those old games basically at full price. So it would definitely bring people into the ecosystem, since they wouldn't have to spend full price for these older games and would be able to just instead play everything for a monthly subscription fee. But it's been quite a while since Activision was officially acquired by Xbox, and so far the stream of Activision games in general has actually been pretty slow on Game Pass. We did get Diablo 4 some time back, we also got Modern Warfare 3, and of course we now have Black Ops 6, and there are some other titles on there, including older Diablo games and some other titles here and there, but nothing other than that was really added to the platform, which is definitely interesting. Call of Duty broke some big records with Black Ops 6, and it had a record for day one players and Game Pass subscribers added on launch day. It seems like it was a really good move for Xbox to include the new Call of Duty on Game Pass, so it's definitely an interesting decision for them to just make players wait out all this time for the hopes of older Call of Duty games on the platform. Maybe there's things that need changing, like security related issues with the multiplayer, but maybe they're just planning on stagnating releases over time to keep people paying in the ecosystem in the hopes of getting these older Call of Duty games soon. Now, it's totally plausible to assume though that not every Activision game is going to be on Game Pass, which would definitely be an interesting move, but for example, games like World of Warcraft are probably too valuable to put on this service, or they may not need to do so to get hardcore players in with its current subscription model. Game expansions like Diablo 4 Vessel of Hatred don't necessarily release day one on Game Pass, things like that, so maybe Xbox just doesn't want to release them onto Game Pass, or not now. Maybe they don't see that it would benefit them in the long run. Though what's interesting though is, for example, Bethesda games all now launch day one on Game Pass, so the next Doom game is going to be day one on Game Pass. There's a ton of other games from other studios that Xbox has acquired or that work directly with Xbox a lot that are releasing their games day one on Game Pass, so you think like, since they bought Activision, think they would release every Activision game now day one on Game Pass and just bring back the older stuff like they did with Bethesda, but I'm not sure necessarily what their analytical data says. I don't really think we're going to be getting those older Call of Duty games really in a single batch at all. I think they're going to be stagnated over however many years to come. I'll wrap things up there, but thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe with notifications set to all so you can stay up to date with all the latest content. Share this video and comment below your thoughts on Modern Warfare 2 coming to Game Pass and also which Call of Duty you want to see on Game Pass. And that's all for today, folks.
Decoy thrown!